session of the day, right? I think, definitely not the least, I guess, since we're talking about blockchain, cryptocurrencies definitely play a very important role, played a very important role. And we're talking about regulations in our country. Everybody wants to know that can we buy Bitcoin, can we sell Bitcoin, can we sell, any of the cryptocurrencies, do cryptocurrency wallets work in India, and so on and so forth. Right. So I think this panel is actually pretty important for the audience. So I will actually keep the entire discussion open as a question to everybody in the panel. So one of my thought idea that when you look at currencies, the fiat currencies, so we have almost 180 currencies in total across the globe, and it has some of the other backing for sure. But then, when we talk about cryptocurrencies, there's more than 1864, which is like more than 10 times of the fiat currencies. So now when we see this, major difference, and also the fact that there is nothing specifically which is backing cryptocurrency, as per the notion, do you think that there is going to be a firm regulation, or laws, coming into our country? What are your thoughts on that?
So hi, thank you. I'll just briefly introduce myself. My name is Jerry Reddy. I work with BSI Associates, which is a law firm which practices quite heavily in crypto and blockchain, as well as other areas of technology law. And so thank you to the organizers for having me. To your question, I think one of the immediate fears of the government is probably that maybe virtual currencies will act as a parallel currency to fiat currency. But as we saw in the last presentation, virtual currencies like Bitcoin are still plagued by the issues of volatility. And as soon as there is huge volatility, people are not willing to use it for payments. Because a buyer who uses it is penalized if the value goes up. He or she wishes they didn't use it because they would have made more money by not spending it. And a seller who accepts it is penalized if the value goes down because he or she wishes that they had not accepted Bitcoin because now that they've accepted Bitcoin, their value has gone down. So which is why one probably sees this not being used for its originally intended purpose, which was payments. And right now, it's I think people are trading on it based on its future potential. There are other technologies. There was a project called Basis Coin, for example, which tried to keep a stable value through an algorithm. They called it an algorithmic central bank. But I believe that project is stopped. So what really interests me is if there can be a stable cryptocurrency which is at the same time decentralized. We do have stable coins like Tether and TrueUSD, but they are centralized and they're guaranteed by a certain entity. So I think if we see a stable yet decentralized cryptocurrency, that might fulfill the original goal, which was to be used for payments. And then possibly there will be some monetary policy implications, which the government may then consider whether it poses a threat to financial stability or not. But as of now, the consensus is it doesn't pose a threat to financial stability.
All right. So Aman, you just joined us.
My apologies.
So
a very good discussion also.
Yeah. So we were just talking on a very general terms that when there is so much difference in the fiat currency in numbers and cryptocurrencies, it's like 180 fiats and more than 1800 plus cryptocurrencies. What do you even think that a government like in India, a country like India would look forward to put up a regulation, or law saying that okay, it is legal and go ahead and use it?
All right. I'll start with a statement that blockchain is not a god and Bitcoin is not a currency, it's just a store of value. And you can keep it or consider as a value to a gold as well.
Can you simplify it for the audience?
So right now, if you start paying your house rent in Bitcoin, today you're paying $100, tomorrow the price fluctuates, there's a lot of volatility, and the scalability has a lot of issues as well. So considering as a store of value, I think it's a better ground to accept that rather than considering as a mode of payments. Coming back to the question of legality, I have been on the panels of the government officials as well. I have always asked these persons that, do you think you would get some benefit by interfering or getting into the system of cryptocurrencies or blockchain? From one perspective, yes, it has to be regulated, because if you look at it, most of the, if I step back and understand the Indian banking financial system, it's very easy to send, or it's very easy to receive money from outside, but it's very difficult to send it from India, until unless you are using the third parties. So your question of regulation, is it that the government should step in and the regulation is important for a mainstream adoption? Until unless the government don't step in, yes, people will have a fear, because we trust the soul and heart of the country, which is the government, because we have elected it. That's why I call it democracy. But the question comes is, are we living in a real democracy, because the bills and laws are made by the people, or made by the people who are sitting in the parliament, and there is no consent to this. Okay. So in a way, yes, the regulations and the friendliness of the crypto is required from a perspective of getting to a mainstream adoption of even considering as a store of value. Until unless it doesn't happen, people will have a fear for sure.
Right. So my question, follows on to you. So you come from a premier education institution of a country, and ISB has been known for creating and supporting and promoting things which are future building. So, from your perspective as an education institution or educationist, what do you recommend to A, the government on cryptocurrencies, and B, to the people here? Very simple.
Yeah. So let me make first of all one or two statements. Okay. If you look at the current banking system and the processes that are prevailing across the world, it's not viable. It's not logical. I think it lived its life. It's going to be over. It's just a question of time. I think it's very much biased towards the middleman, towards the bankers, towards the government. So I think it's not viable. I have got several case studies and several real-life examples to support my argument. And tomorrow morning, actually, I have a session which is on how did I explain blockchain to my grandma. I will mention a couple of them that time. But I just wanted to say that, first of all, it's not viable. It's beneficial for only a section of people. The fact lies, even in India today, if you hear about a fraud of 10 crore, 20 crore, 30 crore, it doesn't even find a place on the top page of the newspaper unless it's related to a politician. So you have cases like Nirav Modi, 11,300 crore, just goes and it goes off, right? But when you're honest people, I just recently did a transaction of buying a flat, and the kind of pain you go through, right? Because you do not have the authentic, decentralized database about ownership of land in the country, and you go to places like Goa, it will be all in Portuguese, not even in English. So you really go through a big pain. If you want to do honest transaction, it is possible, right? But it is complex. And more than people like us, who are taxpayers, even if it is painful, we ensure that we implement whatever we believe is written down and documented. But it's for poor people, it's a big pain, right? If a poor lady who got little bit money, educated her daughter or son, went to US for working, and she or he wants to remit money to her country back, is expensive, it's painful, it takes a long time. So overall, things got to change. Coming back to the next question, is cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, is a solution? I think it's going to mature. It's going to mature And I think government got to play an important role, got to play a supportive role, got to be innovative, and just saying no, we don't support cryptocurrency may not be a solution.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
So, if you look at from the global spectrum, 50% of the population is unbanked in the world, and out of that 16% is in India. Blessed to have all these schemes of Mudra and everything, we have improvised the percentage. But if you dig down deeper onto that, so what are the reasons why people are not opening a bank? You will see there's a lot of friction, which is the present infrastructure part. I see as a future that 5 to 10 years down the lane, I mean, we all should agree that in the last 1 year, the frequency of going to a bank has reduced. Because most of the things can happen online. I see as a future that banks may or may not exist, banking will stay. So coming to his point, that what is the future that mainstream adoption can happen with cryptocurrencies? Government plays an important role because the foundation has to be on that pillars. So that's what I think.
So, coming to you. My question to you would be that you as a common citizen, so let's assume that you don't know much about cryptocurrencies, right? Which is the case of most of people in our country. So in that case, what do you think is the major perception of majority of the people today? And what should people like us, our bodies which are recommending or supporting cryptocurrencies to ensure that that notion which these people have, which is most of it is negative, would change? Or do you actually want that notion to change, to start off with?
Maybe one day just spend 2 minutes introducing myself. My name is Ram. I run a company called ZPX, based out of Singapore. We have a decentralized exchange called Fodex, F-O-R-D-E-X. We also have a media property called Satoshi and .co, and we also launched Asia's first crypto index fund, so to speak. It's called 108token.com. Fascinating discussion, right? So many threads, so many rabbit holes. We could actually spend the whole night debating some of the points that you've brought up. A couple of things that I think are relevant. You brought up, will the government regulate? That's a very specific question. And the second one, how should people approach cryptocurrency, right? And I guess the one question that's probably more fundamental to both these is, what is the blockchain? I mean, it's at some level the blockchain is like 6 blind men trying to figure out what an elephant is. Right? That's the problem with blockchain. Everybody has a different concept of what blockchain is. So let me try and address each of these questions. I'll take the easy one first. What's the government's view on blockchains? We've had the opportunity to speak to governments in Singapore, in the Middle East, India. And this is the one thing that comes out, right? A government is fundamentally concerned with 2 aspects, security and taxation, right? Now, taxation, obviously government is the big brother. They need to make sure that they have enough money to sort of build roads, schools, healthcare, defense, the usual stuff. So, taxation with crypto is not such a huge problem, because as long as you figure out, for example, whenever you want to trade Bitcoin, the exchange sort of lets the government know where the fiat on-ramps are, right? There's a way to figure out how money is flowing from, for example, the rupee into these exchanges, and you can actually tax these things fairly easily. The problem comes when you talk about security, right? And that's a very nuanced argument. There's a bit of a constant tension between the individual and the state, so to speak, right? And that's there with every technology. Even when the internet was first launched, right, in the early 90s, the biggest objection to the internet was that the internet would be the exclusive domain of terrorists and kiddie pontoways and money launderers and all that. Right? And look at what the internet has become today as we speak. Right? So I think that's the lens that we urge the government to look at this technology through. I mean, at the current moment, it's still hazy, but a sort of a heavy-handed approach is probably not the best way to go about this thing, because you entering into a game of whack-a-mole, as the Americans call it, right? Which is, you shut down one cryptocurrency, something else is going to pop up. And even among cryptocurrencies, you have Bitcoin, etc., which is not completely anonymous, but it's pseudonymous. Meaning it's like your computer's IP address. If you send me Bitcoin, that record is there in perpetuity. So if the government wants to audit something, Bitcoin is probably one of the better things to audit, have that in achieve. There are secrecy coins like Zcash and Monero that sort of are truly secret, meaning you can actually send me something and I don't know who you are, you don't know who I am. And the government doesn't know who both of us are, right? So those are the issues where I think the technology, the guys building this technology and the government, they have to work together to come up with solutions.
All right, so I will deviate from a typical panel discussion type, and I want to ask the audience that how many of us are afraid of or would not prefer to invest in cryptocurrencies? You just raise your hands. So we all will not want to invest in cryptocurrencies because we are afraid. Okay. So my question actually gets derived from there, right? So we keep comparing internet and Bitcoin or internet and cryptocurrencies. Internet didn't lose people a lot of money.
Sorry,
Internet did not make too much losses to people, unless you talk about salami attack.
Have you been to the, not really, I mean, if you were in the US and if you had invested in some .com in the late 90s, yeah, you should lost a ton of money, right?
You're talking fun. Okay, all right. So I think why I'm coming from that particular aspect from the people is that since there are a lot of scams which happen, especially in India and a lot of other part of the world, what do you recommend that if at all these people sitting out here decide that they want to invest in cryptocurrency per se, what should they look at which ensure that they're not ending up in some or the other scam?
Please don't consider this as investment advice. And the previous panel was specifically about the YouTube videos you can go and learn. I would suggest and give you a heads up, before investing in Bitcoin, invest in the education first. Understand the concept. I saw first time Bitcoin in 2012. I bought it in 2016. Because I'm an engineer by chance. It just happened. Whatever you learn in engineering college, you have to unlearn and learn different concepts. If you would ask me that, is it an investment that I can consider? Probably try and experiment. Without buying a Bitcoin, whatever you read it, you will never get to know the practicality. So first, invest in the education. What is it all about? How financials, globalization, economies have evolved. How people used to transact 100 years back. How they are transacting right now. What are the challenges with the present infrastructure? How these cryptocurrencies or a new world of digital currencies can address to that. If you understand this concept, then you will be able to take an intelligent decision whether I should put an investment in an egg basket with the cryptocurrencies underlying itself. So, for sure, my advice is look into that first completely. And if someone says that you should invest in cryptocurrencies, I mean, without understanding the matrix or without understanding the concept of it, do not just put your money inside it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that. It's very similar to what Aman said. I'll try to add a different angle is where now Bitcoin obviously doesn't have a central entity behind it. But there are many tokens of late where there is some company or entity behind it which has either created it or you have a right on its platform for a discount or something else, or it's a full-on security token where you have a right to its assets or profit or revenue stream. In those cases, your due diligence would probably be quite similar to the way you choose to whether to invest in a stock or not. You would look at the company, the founders, their background, and then you would analyze the token, what the token actually does, what rights you get when you get the token, whether it's regulated or not. So the US SEC, for example, is looking at almost any token that a company issues as being a security token, because people are putting money in that token with the expectation that the company does well, I make money. And the legal test in the US comes down to that. If you're putting in money based on an expectation of profit from the efforts of others, it's a security. So I just wanted to add a different flavor to that, because things like Bitcoin and Ethereum are one type of asset, and now we have other types of assets where anyone can issue a token. And before one invests in them, you all must have read about the scams with various coins like Game, Bitcoin, and others. One really has to do their due diligence in such products, about such products.
See, I would say that we shouldn't probably look at it as an investment opportunity. I would tend to agree with Anand that we should invest time first to acquire some knowledge, at least the elementary knowledge on this subject, and then yes, we should make some nominal investment to get a feel what it is. But we must know that at this point of time, cryptocurrencies are very volatile. So there is high risk involved. I don't rule out the possibility that government of India would come out with its own cryptocurrency. I think India has been pretty progressive, sometimes very aggressive in many digital strategies. So I don't rule out the possibility that they might even come out with India's own cryptocurrency.
Okay.
So, the one thing that I would add to what Aman said is, look, I think do your education and stuff, but I mean, the unhedged answer, probably the better question would have been, what do we have Bitcoin and how much Bitcoin do we hold? And that's probably the honest answer to the audience.
I can ask that.
Right, so
We would have problem in actually accepting it.
so I mean, forget the off the record, nothing here is investment advice, etc., right? But off the record, just get some Bitcoin, park it somewhere, and look at it in 10 years. Right? That's the honest answer. I mean, this is something good, right? I mean, forget everything else. Forget your nephews, friends, call roommates, ICU. Forget the next thing. I mean, don't even think about it. Just go home, figure out a way to get a little bit of Bitcoin. Ask, depending on what your bank balance and your risk appetite is, right? I mean, this is the reality is. Just give me 2 minutes. This is interesting anecdote. Right? I used to live in London in 2009. A friend told me, "When you come home, I've discovered this cool thing called Bitcoin, and set up a machine and I'm just mining the stuff." I never followed up on his offer, and a few years later he retired with a few $1 million. Right? The point here is, Bitcoin is probably the greatest wealth creation opportunity of our lifetimes, right? And it has a long, long, long way to go. In a few years, it's probably going to be many hundreds of thousands of dollars, most likely. I mean, there's a 20% chance that it goes to zero, but there's a good chance, good 75 to 80% chance that it becomes a couple of $100,000. Now, in that scenario, you got to decide where your risk appetite is and take a punt. Right? That's the honest answer.
Alright, so I will have 2 more questions for the panel and then we'll open it up. Right? So one question and it comes from actually one of the students I met today. And they said that Indian government has actually banned the usage of cryptocurrencies. So we as students and typically millennials, if you say that you're promoting blockchain, the first step of we as millennials being connected to blockchain was to have access to cryptocurrencies and buying it and using it. Right? So what is your thought on that? The entire panel, that if government wouldn't have done that kind of a blanket ban or pulled out support, would it be beneficial for these kids, these millennials? Would it actually benefit them in any way?
Let me sorry to hog this, but this is to 2017. I have a friend who runs an exchange. In one day, he did 20 million volumes. The Indian demand for cryptocurrency was actually going through the roof, right? And India is a bit like China. India always lacks China by a few years. If the government hadn't banned cryptocurrency, we would have had a thriving Bitcoin community as well as a thriving blockchain ecosystem today. I think by enacting the ban
That's it, since you deal with a lot of students on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think that we're going to have a more progressive outlook towards cryptocurrency.
I'm trying to be the devil's advocate today.
Yeah, and the fact lies that current currencies and processes, not only in India, it hasn't worked. And it lived this life. I think, we're going to have a more progressive outlook towards cryptocurrency, if I have to say diplomatically.
Yeah, please.
All right. To again step back and understand, the purpose of cryptocurrency is not to make millions. If we understand this fact, we'll be able to realize its potential. The purpose of cryptocurrency is to solve a problem. There is a pain in the market. Cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin or anything is not acting as a vitamin, they're acting as a painkiller. If we understand this fact, we'll forget what is the price of Bitcoin today and what will be the price tomorrow. We need to focus on what these challenges can be addressed or these problems can be addressed for these people. Yes, there is a lot of dirt in the market. Everyone is trying to create their own cryptos, like people did it in school days, Pokemon tokens, trump cards, anything, what they feel like exchanging. If there is a logic behind it, there will be acceptability. But if there is no logic and I want to make quick money, had students wanted to make quick money, they would have understood the equity market. There is a lot of money around it, right? And this is, I was trying to understand the psychology of an individual Indian trader. When he or she goes to a car showroom, he tries to understand the specs of a car, compares it with some other things. He tries to become an expert there. But when it comes to an investment advice, they trust it on the word of mouth. They are Infosys level, right? Ethereum level, right? Do you understand what is it all about? No. So people are becoming samajhar and andove kanara. It's happening, but that will again be on the exponential rise if people don't understand what value it's creating rather than it's a minting tree for the people to become millions.
Yeah, I'll just add on a different aspect about this distinction between blockchain and cryptocurrency which people try and make. And while there are certain cases of private blockchains which can work without cryptocurrency, the overwhelming consensus is that the real breakthrough that the Satoshi Nakamoto white paper made can only be achieved if there is some kind of token that resides on the blockchain. This has been said by Vitalik Buterin, Andreas Antonopoulos, and various other experts. Because the whole goal of a decentralized system is to, rather than trust a single party, is to trust the majority of the network. And when there is a single party, the single party gets incentivized in some way through bank fees or other ways. Now, if the majority of the network has to put in the work to authenticate this whole the network of strangers' transactions, they must expect some reward. And the only
I think we should revolve around the question, especially for the millennials, right? So the question was that, what do you think? I mean, if it wouldn't have been a ban or a pullback of support, would it benefit these folks, these so-called millennials?
Yeah. No, the reason I'm saying that is that I think there's this policy stance that certain quarters are trying to make that let us promote blockchain, but cryptocurrency is not good. Let us try and promote the blockchain ecosystem in India, encourage students, etc. But as some studies showed, Encrypt did a study recently, one cannot have a successful blockchain ecosystem because crypto is very essential to the decentralized structure of blockchains. So I think to encourage more maybe millennial participation or any participation, there has to be a regulatory framework that acknowledges cryptocurrency and at the same time balances the risks.
Okay, so the last question, zeroing in on the theme of the panel discussion. So if all of us were decision makers in the government, you four, not me, right? What would be the ideal, call for cryptocurrency which you will take from a government standpoint? This is being recorded, but it's okay. It's just an assumption.
So I can go first. We actually proposed a detailed paper. You can find it online. If you just search Nishit Desai Associates, Building a Successful Blockchain Ecosystem for India. So we did it as an independent suggestion, not on behalf of any client or anyone else, but because we were working in the industry for the past few years and we noticed certain areas where we could add value. The current Indian law is actually very powerful to regulate most of the risks associated with cryptocurrency.
Keep it crisp so that it
Yeah.
registers with people.
Let me just summarize in 2 points. One is we have a Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and that can be extended very easily to cryptocurrency businesses.
Mhm.
Second is there are multiple ways under existing laws and new laws where we can create a licensing regime for cryptocurrency businesses. And while this won't be a solution that fixes everything, it will go towards mitigating a lot of the risks and still keep the ecosystem alive.
Your thoughts, Aman?
It's an interesting question, by the way. Okay, let's look at it from an angle that we're talking about a decentralized technology. And we wanted to give a power to a centralized authority to take a decision whether you make it legal or illegal, you create a blanket or not. We also give them a choice to elect leaders. Why not we also give them a choice to look at what can be the currencies for local transactions. You go to deep-rooted village, people transact in their other currencies. I've seen the Coca-Cola bottles becoming a medium of exchange between the two parties. So, if the government looks from a global perspective, there shouldn't be any boundaries. And this phenomena has to exist. The only problem is to understand whether this facilitates some illegal activities or not. If we can have a cage around it, we can definitely facilitate, and this will become, this will come to a mainstream adoption and could become one of the sources of a transaction as well. I should have a flexibility that tomorrow, to give you an interesting phenomenon, you go to any other country, you go to Europe, you go to US, you go to UK, people speak in your language which you understand, right? Menu is in English. But when you have a choice to pay, you have to pay either euro, you have to pay either currency which is acceptable then. Why? Why can't I pay a currency which is globally acceptable? I'm again boiled it onto a funnel which I have to go through the currency which is accepted by you. Why can't all the governments look at a map when there is no boundaries? So if this phenomena starts acting from a perspective that we can all join hands and then mainstream adoption can come from a value of an impact, then definitely it will be successful, and for sure, to address to your question, it will complement that.
Perfect. Any thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, I would say that, with the current level of technological maturity, right, government should encourage cryptocurrency but have a regulation around it, some rules around it, and not just kind of free and do whatever you want. So that's one part. But more importantly, I think whole subject of blockchain and cryptocurrency is a great opportunity for our country. Government must take all initiatives to ensure that we have skill development in this area. And if we're going to do that, I think it will also create a lot of job opportunities. Because what we are going through today in the country is jobless growth. And I think this trend would continue, and this could be a new opportunity for new type of jobs.
Perfect. So it's 3-0 right now.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the whole security versus taxation. So the question was, what would we do if we were in the government, right? So, yeah, there's no choice. It's either we sort of creating a level playing field, or revolution bypassing us. That's the real reality of the matter. You look at progressive regulations like Singapore or the US or the European nations, nobody's really banning crypto, right? They're just figuring out guardrails around which this whole emerging economy can sort of limit. And somebody brought up this interesting point, and this could interesting for the current government especially. Crypto is the opposite of the one God philosophy, right? And crypto is what our ruling regime's roots are around, right? There's no centralization. You can, in Hinduism they call Vishnu Devata, right? If you want Bitcoin, you have Bitcoin. If you fork and have an avatar of Bitcoin, you can do that, right? So it comes from a place of abundance. The whole philosophy is around abundance and not scarcity, right? So it's something. So if somebody wants to make a pitch to the government, that's an interesting angle to go after. So net, I would imagine, create sandboxes, be progressive, and then let innovation flourish.
Awesome. So to probably summarize, I'm hoping that this kind of reaches the relevant people within the regulatory bodies, and people who missed this session. I hope that you take this message to them as well. Plus, lastly, are there any questions? We are open to that. Okay, we have a lot of fans. We'll take 2 questions and we'll take rest of them offline because I'm sure we have a lot of questions on this one. Yes, the gentleman there. Yes, please. You want the mic in? Please come.
Why do we think about crypto prices in terms of fiat, and conversely, we don't think about fiat in terms of crypto prices, right? So if you think about Bitcoin, for example, from Jan to the end of the year, you say, oh, I lost like 90% of my money, but like Bitcoin price relative to Ethereum or some of the other cryptos hasn't changed that much. So it's more from coming from the perspective, are you investing in crypto solely so you can take it back out and make money in fiat? Otherwise, if you actually believe that you can start transacting in
What's the question?
tokens, if you can start transacting in just tokens, why do we even think about crypto prices in terms of fiat?
Because the dollar is still the unit of account, the rupee is still the unit of account, right? I mean,
No, but if you can start paying in crypto, if you truly believe in that.
yeah, if that happens, you probably think of the unit account as Bitcoin, but till that moment, the unit of account is still your fiat.
So then you're just investing with the perspective of taking it back out into your fiat.
Sorry?
So then you're just putting money into crypto to take it back out into fiat, basically.
Yeah, because 99% of the world still doesn't accept crypto, right? So even if you have 100,000 Bitcoin, you still need to convert that dollar to buy a Ferrari or whatever.
Yeah, but then it's hard to make the argument that it's like a mode of transaction or like.
I think we can take this, continue this offline because this is going to go long actually. The last one, maybe we can take one more question.
My question is, assuming, okay, that since all 4 of you have said that government should go in for cryptocurrency, assuming cryptocurrency is in vogue, what happens when disaster strikes?
Actually, sorry. So when so let me give an example. When the Kerala floods happened last year, I was actually in the valley at that point, and I said, listen guys, just had this thing happen. So overnight, I had one of my colleagues set up a Bitcoin address, just a URL with an address that people could send Bitcoin into. And overnight, we had $275,000 in Bitcoin sitting in the account. But the next day morning, my accountant from Singapore called me and said, listen, are you set up as a trust? Are you set up as a non-profit entity? If you do that, you have all these hoops to jump through. Cut a long story short, I just decided to send all the Bitcoin back. So to answer your question, if disaster strikes, Bitcoin is probably the fastest way to get paid in.
But actually what happens is, in India especially, the first thing when disaster strikes is that the electricity goes off. Right, and it stays off for a long time. And in that case, what do you fall back on? Okay.
I really like that question by the way.
It's interesting question and an intelligent question as well. There are 2 types of disaster in addition. One is man-made disaster, other is natural disaster. Now let's look at when natural disaster happens. You said electricity turns off. And electricity switches on, the country switches the electricity because it doesn't have a replicated effect. But you cannot stop the world's electricity. It's like everyone is a part of it. We are on a different geography, we maintain it. Highly unlikely possibility that a disaster occur across the world. If the infrastructure boils it down to something, we'll never be able to retrace it back. Now compare it with a banking infrastructure. If your bank gets some kind of a disaster attack, you will hardly get 1 lakh, no matter what amount is there in your bank account. That's an RBI mandate. So compare it to that. Yes, if the disaster occurs, we'll still be able to recover it because there is a key, I have it, I can access it through a global banking system, which is a blockchain.
I think you not got the question. What I meant was, what happens then when
In the case of disaster.
in the disaster-prone area? How do you manage? Because you need money even for
Beautiful. So Right now, people are working on that. So if what happens in a natural calamity, your banking infrastructure is not working, the other country sends out the money. What is the requirement? Right? I have met the Red Cross team, what they are working on. They look at the geography. You have mobile connection. If the mobile connection doesn't work, then I can look at, if the towers are not working, then I can't retrace it. Because I need an instant amount to get the facilities for my food, healthcare, and some of the other facilities which are requirement for a natural human body. If the towers stop working, then there is no way. At present, there is no way. And people are working to address that, because how would I know that this location or geography gone through a disaster and I need to locate a money instantly? Because if the money comes to the same geography after 1 week, then the purpose is lost. Right? People are working on that, and I think I don't have any answer if we lose the electricity infrastructure connection, which is the what you call it, the foundation of things to work even in the banking and digital asset space. If that happens, I don't know what can be a remedy for that.
I think we should also let the entire ecosystem get more and more mature. Probably an apt answer to your question, but probably with time we'll also have it. So with this, I would want to thank all the panelists. Can we have a round of applause, please, to all the panelists? And we are open for discussions. We'll catch up offline and talk more about cryptos. Thank you.